Hi everybody, Jonah here with Jonah Pettyjohn Missions, and thank you for joining me for another weekly Devo. I'm happy that you're here. I'm outside today filming in a park, which is a very, very beautiful park. I'm happy to be out here. I just hope the audio works well for you, and I hope we don't get too many background noises of people walking and laughing and dogs barking and all that sort of stuff. So bear with me a little bit. For today's Devo, I actually thought that I would share a story with you about something that happened here in Athens. It was about 2 weeks ago, maybe 10 days ago, something like that. Me and some other volunteers with International Christian Center Athens, all three of us girls, right? We all decided to join an event that was happening in downtown Athens. It was a prayer walk. So there was a church in downtown that was hosting a prayer walk. We were going to start at one particular location and then walk until we got to our end destination, and then at the ending destination we were going to have a little praise and worship time, and this is all happening in public. So we were really excited to join that, so we decided we were going to go that day. And the only difficult thing was that the flyer did not clearly indicate exactly where the walk was supposed to start. It gave the name of a particular square, and it's a big long Greek word and I don't know how to pronounce it, but it gave the name of like a square or like a park area where the walk was supposed to begin. But every time we would put it into our GPSs or look it up on a map, it wouldn't show up and we could not find it. But there was one destination that it seemed like it was kind of near, so we went there and there was nothing there. And so anyways, we found another spot that seemed to be correct. That was about a 20-minute walk away. So we started walking. We decided, hey, we'll head there and we'll see if we can find people, right? And we could do our own little prayer walk along the way. So we can just walk and pray by ourselves, okay? So that was our decision. And the GPS, it was on one of the other girls' phones. She managed to find it. And so we started walking. And for the majority of the walk, we're just walking through a regular Athenian neighborhood and city, and everything is as usual. On our way, we did pass a group of protesters. It was the beginning of a protest. Fortunately, just the beginning. We did pass a group of protesters who were very clearly, from their signage, it was all written in Greek, but all of their signs and the symbols, they were communists. So they were pro-communist protesters, which we kind of thought was interesting. But we just kept walking, and we're getting further away from the main street, more into a neighborhood, which is fine when you're heading into a park. That's what you expect. So we're walking, and then all of a sudden we pass some sort of like threshold, and by threshold I mean like some sort of spiritual threshold there. Because it felt like for 1 minute we were just in a normal part of the city, and then the next second we were in a completely different environment. We were in a really rough neighborhood. You could tell just by the state of the businesses, and there was not a single inch of the sides of any of the buildings that was not covered in graffiti and propaganda. It was all political. It was communist propaganda. It was anti-Semitic propaganda. It was even like Greek nationalist stuff, like get rid of tourists, like all of this kind of stuff, just written on every single square inch of every building that we could pass. And there was even an alleyway that we did not walk down, because we would not dare walk down that alley, that had a banner raised above the alley with the same symbols that we had seen from the group of protesters that we had passed earlier. So very clearly this is a very Greek nationalist and communist place. And the people that we're passing, you can tell, live very, very rough lives, obviously use drugs. Some of them you could even just tell were definitely possessed by something. I mean, passing demon-possessed people. And the moment that we stepped into that part of the neighborhood, all of us girls just kind of like looked at each other like this, because you could just feel the darkness of that area in a second, just a split second. And it was so intense And I have never in my life felt a darkness that was so clear, so evident, so palpable as that darkness was. And I go over to my friend who's got the GPS. I'm like, listen, are we going the right way? Where are we going? And she says, well, the spot that we're heading to is only about 5 minutes away. So we say, okay, let's keep going. It's only 5 minutes more, right? So we keep going. And while we keep going, we're making observations to each other, like, what are we doing here? And we all came to the conclusion that, well, we decided that we were going to do our own little prayer walk, so I guess we must all be here to pray. So we start praying. And anyway, we're walking through and we're praying, and we're just witnessing. I'm witnessing a neighborhood unlike anything I've ever seen before. It was like stepping back into the time of Cold War communism in Europe. And the only expression that comes to my mind when I think about that neighborhood, remember the visual of it all, was just communist hellscape. That's really the only way that I can describe it. It was like looking in a textbook picture of communist Europe. And we finally reach our destination, and nobody's there. So we evidently went to the wrong place. But there were a bunch of police officers up there, which we were all incredibly thankful for after witnessing the environment that we were just in. We felt finally kind of safe around these cops. But then again, it wasn't the place that we were supposed to be because our group wasn't there. So we are all standing around and we're looking at our phones, trying to figure out where in the world are we. We need to either find another place to go where our group could meet up with the prayer team, or we just need to leave. So we're looking at our phones, looking at our maps, trying to figure out where to go. And there's a gentleman who comes and he just walks right past us, not thinking anything of it. But then we start talking to each other in English, obviously, because we all speak English, we're all American. And when he hears us speak English, he turns around and he looks at us and he goes, excuse me, he's very aggressive. Fortunately, the police were just behind him, so we weren't worried about it too much. But he goes, excuse me. And we say, like, yes. He goes, do you like all of these police here? Like that. He goes, do you like all of these police here? And we were all kind of shocked. And finally, I spoke up and I just told him, I was like, we're not from here, is what I said. We're not from this area. And he goes, I know you're not from here. He goes, all of these police, they're here for you, because they want to make this area a tourist area. So I hope you like these police. And it was very clear that that neighborhood was his neighborhood and that he was not interested in having any foreigners in his territory. And it was just like this confrontation of this hatred it was in that part of the city, because we felt it and we could read it on the walls. Again, it was plastered everywhere. But then we actually, were confronted by it from a person himself, who was a grown adult man who was very willing to chastise a bunch of women because we weren't from his city. So we finally found out where, we didn't find the group, but we did find the nearest train station and decided, you know what, let's just leave. And I turned to the girls and I was like, hey, if they're going to be aggressive when they hear us speak English, let's just not talk. So we didn't speak to each other for the rest of our walk out. It took us about 10 minutes to walk out of there. So all in all, we probably only spent about 20 minutes in that part of the neighborhood. But like I said, it was some of the deepest, most evident darkness I have ever felt and experienced in my entire life. And praise the Lord, we made it out of there okay, and there were no other issues or confrontations on the way out. But I was thinking about it afterward, because we all kind of agreed that we were supposed to be there, and we were supposed to pray, and we were supposed to walk through that part of the neighborhood, and we had no idea. God only knows how many other Christians have ever dared to go into that part of town and actually pray and walk through those alleyways. But I was thinking about it afterwards in light of experiencing, like I said, some of the deepest darkness I've ever personally felt. It brought a different perspective to my mind about that scripture from Isaiah, where it says, those who are walking in darkness have seen a great light. And those who lived in the shadow of death or upon those who were walking in the shadow of death, a great light has dawned. If you are privileged enough to live in a Christian nation, in a Christian country or neighborhood or household, just to have family that knows the Lord and believes the Lord, you when you hear the term darkness, sometimes that can be hard to quantify. It can be hard to understand because maybe you're thinking of darkness like, well, when it's nighttime it's dark, but like, what is spiritual darkness? What is it to experience that? And when you do experience it, maybe you have experienced it in your life, but if you haven't, like I've not experienced darkness like that before, but when you do experience that darkness, it brings you a greater appreciation for the light, a much greater appreciation for the light. And having come out of that, I now look at Christ as being the light of mankind in a totally different way. I have a whole new respect for Jesus Christ being referred to as the light of the world. It's so much more profound than you could ever realize if you're not at all familiar with the depths of darkness that can take place in this world. And after experiencing the depth of that darkness, even just for 20 minutes, just walking through that environment for 20 minutes, I have a whole new appreciation for Jesus Christ as the light of the world. And I would encourage you to contemplate that today. If that's something maybe you have not considered, what does it mean that Jesus Christ is the light of this world? Has there been a time where you were in darkness, where you experienced Christ as the light, and you realize how necessary it is to bring light into these deep, dark places? Anyways, that's my story from a time in Athens. Don't worry, I'm safe. That's not where I'm staying. I now know the name of that neighborhood, and I will pray for that neighborhood. I don't know how many times I'll be walking through it anymore, but yeah, thank you so much again for joining me, and have a blessed week. Bye.